Deepinder, you should be good now.
All right. So yeah, good morning everyone, and thanks for joining. As per what Jill's just mentioned, we're going to try to take you through the walkthrough of a very high level of what we have, understood so far. We have not configured everything, so to speak, but this is just to give you an understanding what it would look like in the system, and also how you would land up using it given your processes, right? Your current process, that is you using blanket purchase orders. Now, I think when we had discussed, there was mention that you cannot use items on blanket purchase orders. And, we did a little digging around, and it seems that your system is configured such that we can use it. And we made those changes to make sure that, it allows you to. So we're going to try to take you through the process of taking one particular item. You're going to buy that item. You're going to receive it into inventory. You're going to, from the vendor or the AP side, nothing changes technically. A bill gets created, a payment happens. That same item is then sold to a customer, right? And how that goes through, you create your sales order, you go ahead and fulfill that, and that goes out of inventory. And again, at the invoicing, at the customer invoicing and payment, really nothing changes, but we'll walk you through that. And then through that piece is the return, right? Whether that happens at a vendor level and a return that happens at a customer level. So what happens in the system? So we're going to try to take you through that. Have a look at this process first, end to end, to see what we have. Make notes of your question, and then towards the end it'll be easier for us to address them. Just have a look at the demos again, like I mentioned. And with that, Aniket, let's start with the blanket purchase orders, please. Can you hear
Yeah,
me, Aniket?
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, sure.
thanks.
So good morning, everyone. Let me just share my screen. Let me know if it's available to, it is visible to everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is a flow diagram of the demo. Today, what we are going to follow the process. For example, we can say we will start with creating a blanket purchase order. And here I'm saying a new clock means a serialized inventory item for the new clocks. Then from that, we will create a child PO. Similarly, it will go to item receipt, vendor bill, and the vendor payment. After that, we'll create a standalone PO that will be used for both test cases. I mean to say for the new clocks from vendor. Second thing, for the ref type of items. Okay. And it will again go through for the item receipt, vendor bill, and vendor payment. So for testing purpose, we have set up a couple of locations in our test environment. For example, you can see there's a parent location called test. Under that, these three are the sub location. So we have created one location called quarantine that will be used for item to be stored when it is received from vendor to do a quality check or a quality inspection. Similarly goes if you receive the item from the customer through RMA, that also store in the QA location. Okay. Then we have a finish items. For that we created a location called stock where we have all our finished goods that we are ready to sell to the customers. And third location we have created for the refurbished item, that the items that have reworked from the vendor that can be stored under the refurbished location. So this is for the demo purpose. We have set up this hierarchy of the location in the test environment. After that, we're going to use these two items, two assembly items. These are the serialized inventory items. Okay. And there's a vendor 10013 and the customer you're going to use is 1279. Okay. After that, just want to make sure we have created one report. So here, whenever we want to track through the serialized number, we just need to put the number here and it will give whole track of the item, how it is flowing through into NetSuite. So once I start my demo, I will just show you and referring this search. Okay. So for now, let's start with creating a blanket purchase order. So just give you demo. I have just created a record here with the called the blanket purchase order. For that, we need to follow the path like transactions, purchases, enter purchase order, enter blanket purchase order. So here we need to fill up all the data that is required, right? For example, the vendor, the location, then the order date, it will by default to the NetSuite. Then we need to mention the start date and end date. So here for this particular blanket purchase order, I'm just keep a 1 year of period to consume this blanket purchase order. After that, we can put a memo if we required. For now, we just put like CR testing do not proceed. We can put the Coupa PO number and all the necessary details. After that, on the line level, we need to click on this under the item sub tab. We need to click on the items. I have added this item and I have put a quantity of 100 here. And then I mentioned the rate. Once we do that, we need to just click add and we need to save the record. So until and unless your blanket purchase order have a status of active, you can consume the blanket purchase order. Once it is inactive, we cannot create a child PO from the blanket purchase order. So now, so any question on this part? Shall I proceed?
No, just keep going. We'll wait for take the questions towards the end.
Okay. So now I want to create a child POs from the blanket purchase order as per my requirement. So whenever you get a requirement to create a child POs from the blanket purchase order, we need to go into transactions, purchases, order items. So once you go in this page, we have a couple of filters. That is a NetSuite default filters called the location, vendor, any parent items or any minimum quantity, right? Then we need to go over here under the blanket PO items, right? So here based on our blanket PO, we can put again a filter called order start date and order end date. And based on that, we can filter out the list of the blanket purchase orders which are active into NetSuite. For now, our blanket purchase order number is 5513, just now what we have created. So you can see we have here our just created blanket purchase order and showing a quantity of 100. So we need to check that box and we need to put a quantity. For what quantity I need to create a child purchase order, right? For now, I need to create a child purchase order for 4 quantity, right? We need to put a quantity here and then we need to submit. So once it is submit, it will move to the status page of the blanket purchase order where you can refer the status which is showing as in progress. So we need to click on the refresh button. Will take some time to create a child PO. So now over the blanket purchase order on the line level, if you see the order quantity showing as 0 and total quantity showing as 100, right? So once our child PO is created, we can have a number and we have the approval status with the amount. If we are getting any kind of error while creating a child PO, it will show up in the error message. So now if I just open this child PO, you can see it is created with the approved status and we have the reference of blanket purchase order also called it is created from this specific blanket purchase order and it is showing a status of the pending receipt. Okay, we have created for the 4 quantity which is showing up here, right? After that, if we go back to our blanket purchase order, if you just refresh it, you can see in the summary as well, it is showing a purchase amount showing as a 40, right? And here also you can see the order quantity showing as 4 from this 100 quantity. So we have the both references on the blanket purchase order as well as on the child purchase order when we creating the child POs from the blanket purchase order. You can also refer the list of the child POs created from blanket purchase order under this related record sub tab. So this is the child PO just we have created. Okay, so blanket purchase order we specifically gonna use for the new clock items. I mean to say when we are receiving a new inventory items from the vendors. Okay. So any question till this point? Shall I continue?
Continue, Aniket. Later. Questions will be at the end.
Okay. Okay, now, so that is covered over the first scenario, what I just show you. That is the blanket purchase order created for the new clocks, including the child PO. Now I'm moving back to the standard PO, and then we will continue together for the item receipt, vendor bill, and vendor payment. So for testing now purpose, I have already created one blanket purchase order. Sorry, I have already created a regular purchase order into NetSuite. Now to just show you the demo, we have manually created this purchase order, but you can refer at this PO is received from the Coupa into NetSuite through the existing Coupa NetSuite integration, right?
No, so and again, just take the process through the blanket purchase order. You've created the child PO, now receive that.
Okay. Okay, so this is the blanket purchase order, and we have the child PO. So I'm just going over the child PO, and I will complete the process of receipt. So here, once the PO is created, we need to click on the receive button. So it will move to the item receipt transaction page, where we have the NetSuite already push all the required data from purchase order to the item receipt. For example, created from the subsidiary and the vendor and the currency. If you want to put any specific information regarding the memo section, we can put, for example, I will put as the new clock items. This is just for our reference. Then over the line level, we need to go over the item and expenses subtab, and we need to check this receipt box. Okay. Once we do that, we need to verify all the information present over the line level. We need to specifically see the two location where we are going to receive the inventory from vendor. For now, we will receive the inventory at the quarantine location. And here I have mentioned the quantity. You can also receive this PO like partially. So for example, I want to receive from this child PO, I just received 1 to 3 quantity. So I can, whatever quantity I want to receive, I need to put in this box. After this step, we need to add the inventory detail into NetSuite. So for that, now you can see there is a box showing a down blue arrow. So we need to click on this icon. Once we click on that, it will open a window where we need to add the inventory details. Inventory details, I mean to say the CL number for that specific item. Right. So now I will put for the 3 quantity, I'm just putting a serial number for SSR 3001. SR 3002. This serial number needs to be unique into NetSuite for an item until and unless it is moved from the from the NetSuite. Okay, so I've added all the 3 different serial numbers for the 3 quantities of this item. Then we need to click on OK. So now you can see once we added inventory details successfully, it will give a box with the right checkbox. That means we have configured the inventory detail correctly into NetSuite. Once we done this, we need to save the record. So now I have received the item to the quarantine location. Okay, so if I move again to the report which I have created, and if I put here the specific CL number called SR3001, so we'll have the transaction number, that is the item received. This is the item number. This is the date. Then this is for the specific vendor. It is created from this purchase order. Then this is the serial number, what we have added for the specific item and which location. So it is now this inventory are present into quarantine location for inspection. So it is showing as a 2 quantity. It is received here on this specific location. Okay. So once we have the item receipt, we will after that we will follow our regular process to the vendor bill and the vendor payment. Yeah,
And you
Jitendra,
can
you're saying
just go
something.
back to the item receipt, please.
Yeah, I'm opening that. Yeah.
So over here, the GL impact. So this is for Travis and team. You get to see if you go to actions, yeah, go to the GL impact, please. Yeah. So you get to see the GL impact at this stage for item receipt, right? And your current process was using expenses. You were not using items. So this is using your current process. You're now using items, and you're able to see the GL impact of. And obviously, we just want to make sure everything aligns. And this is again for testing purposes. But you'll be able to see the GL impact at the item receipt level and obviously at the vendor bill level. So Aniket, if you go to the vendor bill, just can we see the GL impact over there as well, please?
Yeah. So now I'm creating a bill from item receipt directly. I will need to click on this bill icon, bill button, sorry. So here, if we have any vendor invoice number that we can put here for our references. For example, I'm seeing VR001. We need to put all the necessary field. For example, the invoice date is 25th. If you scroll down, you can see this is the item, this is the quantity, and it is received at this location. So then I need to save the bill.
Aniket, sorry. While waiting for it to load, I just have a question regarding the geo impact. Because earlier I saw there's a account description, but I didn't see an account number for the purchases side. Is there a way to see that information somewhere?
So shall I open the item receipt for you?
The geo impact of that item receipt.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for the first line, like it just says accrued purchases.
Yeah.
Should there be an account number on that side, or that's
That
meant
is
to be?
so that is based on however the account is set up. So
Okay.
if your account is set up as accrued purchases and it doesn't have a number associated to it, it will not reflect that. So in
Oh,
your
so yeah,
GL, yeah,
expense.
you'll need, yeah, you'll in your GL account, your chart of accounts, you'll have to see how those are set up. And if that is important, then that needs to be tagged over there.
Gotcha. So we can still, I guess, modify it afterwards.
Exactly. Because you see
Yeah.
below that, you see the account numbers below that, right? That's how it's been defined in the books, in the chart of accounts, and that's why you see that.
Got it. I think that's the one that says inventory being shipped potentially or something like that. So yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
explaining that.
Yeah, the reason we want you to have a look at this is because as we go towards, finalizing this, we'll need all that information so that it can be set up, correctly. And the
Got it.
same thing at the vendor bill level. This will also show you the GL impact over here, uh, for once a vendor bill is created for your items that have been received, right? Um, you'll be able to see all of that over here as well. On another note, the report that Aniket just showed you, previous, where he was putting in the serial numbers, this is also to facilitate the cancellations team, right? When they get a call from the customer, they are given the serial number. Via the serial number, they can track exactly when it was sold, when it was received, what was done with that item, and so on. So this is going to help facilitate that. Maybe they don't need so much information, but this would be a good starting point for them.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Yeah, thank you.
And that information would be feeding into some kind of warranty management system that says if that particular serial number is currently covered by an annual maintenance or a rental agreement.
So
Right.
we're not doing anything with warranty management. I think what we had discussed was that is going to be out of scope, and will be managed in the next phase probably. But here you at least get to know what you have and where it is, when was it shipped, and so on and so forth. As far as warranty management goes, how you're managing your warranties, whether that's 1 year, 2 years, etc. You'll have to track that.
No, it's a paid extended warranty that lasts for as long as the customer has the clock. So it's
Okay, so then
indefinite.
in
There's
that
no.
case, in that case, you're not really managing a warranty. You're just, if as long as the customer has it, that means I'm in warranty. Then I really don't need to.
No, that is not correct. But if this is not in scope for this project, that's something I would take up with my management.
Okay.
Okay.
So from here, then once the bill is created, I mean, it takes you through the payment process, right? And from
Yeah.
the bill over here at a vendor, when you've received it, you have the ability to go ahead and return it, right? For whatever reason, you've received this into quarantine. So what we have tried to do is you receive it into quarantine. From quarantine, if you decide that, hey, what we received is damaged, we need it replaced, and then you can have that replaced from here by creating a return from here. Also, you have, as per what we understood, typically the returns or exchanges are $0. So this would be a $0 return. Essentially, it allows you to track what's gone out of inventory for return and come back into inventory once it's shipped back. So let's start with the return over here for the purchase order.
Okay. Yeah. So now I want to just return this item back to the vendor, as couple of items from these three quantities are damaged. For example, for one quantity, I want to return back to the vendor. So for that, I just need to click on the authorize return from the bill, or you can also create from the purchase order as well. We have the authorize button here as well. Okay. So once you click on that, it will move to the vendor return authorization transaction form. Yeah. So now form is open. Here also we can add a demo, for example, one quantity is damaged, right? And then we need to come on down. We need to put all the necessary information. So what are the fields which are the red asterisk field, that are the mandatory fields? Without adding any information on that, it will not allow us to save. So for example, for requester, I'm putting my name. Just justification for purchase, I can say the items are damaged. Then I need to put an invoice date. Then here also one mandatory field. I'm not sure why we added this custom field here, but for now, I'm just putting as no here. Then on the line level, I want to specify the quantity I want to send back to the vendor. So I'm saying as quantity 1. And as Dipinder mentioned initially, we need to keep is a $0 vendor return. So I need to put a rate as a 0 here. And then we need to click on OK. And here itself, after putting the rate, we need to configure the inventory. So we need to click on this here, the inventory detail. So now we have the 3 serial number for this specific purchase order and this vendor return authorization. From that, I need to return the third one, which is damage. So I will remove the remaining 2. I will click on this third serial number. I will click OK. So once we configure the inventory, it will give a green checkbox over the box. And when you click on OK, and we need to save this RMA. Okay, so if I go back on the purchase order, if we refresh it, we can refer our VRMA from here, the subtype called related records. We can refer from the bill as well. So we have not approved this VRMA, that is not showing in the purchase order and the bill. Once we approve this return, so it will show in the purchase orders in the related records. Take some time to update. So let's come to the vendor return authorization. So now we have created a VRMA for the return, right? We can see the quantity here as well with a $0 amount. For that, now I need to create now the return. So I mean to say I need to create an item fulfillment. So once we click on the return from the VRMA, it will open the item fulfillment transaction form. And we can here the mention the reason as the damaged clock. We need to check this box on the line level called fulfill. Then we have received in the quarantine from quarantine location itself, we are just sending this item back to the vendor. So here's a quantity 1, and we are already configured the inventory only the RMA. Once we do that, we can also just review by clicking here. So it's SRR 3003, and we need to save the item fulfillment. So once we do that, you can see the status of the VRMA showing as a pending credit. From here, we can just give credit to the vendor. Otherwise, we can just refund back to the vendor. So both things we can do from this VRMA record. So that's complete the process of the item returned back to the vendor.
Now from here, when the vendor sends it back to you, that exchange, now we can walk through that process from here, Aniket.
Yeah. So now I will create a regular purchase order, which I've already created. So we can consider now this is a regular purchase order, which is pushed from Coupa to NetSuite. So here, initially, I've just shown you a scenario where we are creating a blanket purchase order for a year with a large quantity that cannot be consumed over a period, right? So as now for the blanket purchase order, we need to come back into NetSuite and create the blanket purchase order manually. So rather than that, we can use, this is the one of the solution approach we just proposing, that we can just create a regular purchase order where we can mention a large quantity. For example, for now, just testing purpose, there's 2 items I have added for quantity 20 and 20, right? So we can also receive or consume this purchase order. We can receive the partially from the blanket purchase order over a period of time. So we can also use only the regular purchase order rather than the blanket purchase order.
Yeah. So what we're trying to, as we go through this, and something for the business to think about is, do you want to use your current process, that is your blanket purchase orders? In this case, you will use items and you have the ability to do so. So we walked you through creating a blanket purchase orders with items. We've received it, it's come into inventory, we have created a bill, we are able to return it out as well, right? Now the question then, something to think about is, again, if you want to standardize this process, and in which case everything is initiated from Coupa, but Coupa has a limitation where it cannot work with blanket purchase orders, then in that case, you can create a purchase order and treat it like a blanket purchase order. What that means is you create a purchase order which has, say, the same 100 quantities and is $1 million in Coupa. It gets transferred or integrated to NetSuite. And in that, now for the rest of the year, all you're going to do is do partial receipts against that one purchase order. And at the end of the year, you treat it like a blanket purchase order, but it's not going through that NetSuite functionality per se. Instead of creating multiple POs throughout the year and sub or child POs throughout the year for the blanket purchase order, you have the ability to just use a regular purchase order, which will be initiated from Coupa, come to NetSuite, and you do all your item receipts in NetSuite, right? Partial item receipts. in which case it will follow the same process that we just saw, the same item receipt, entering the serial number, creation of the vendor bill, and you'll have the same ability to go ahead and return. So something to think about as far as the business goes as to what way you would like to move forward, using the blanket purchase orders, which doesn't touch Coupa, or we standardize it and use the regular purchase orders. And that will go through the same process, right? So now we've seen how it has come into the system. And now, because now we're going to go to the second piece of this, which is sales, we'll do an inventory transfer. So we have accepted everything in quarantine, but we don't sell from quarantine. We sell from the stock location. So we'll do an inventory transfer now because we've got stock in quarantine, which is good. We can transfer that to our stock location. And from there, we will initiate a sales order because now we have quantity to sell. So let's do the inventory transfer real quick, Aniket, and then move to the sales order.
So before moving, just want to mention this is a regular PO from which 18 quantities I have already received, been assigning a serial number to that. Okay. So now I want to do a inventory transfer. So for that, I will go over the transactions inventory and I will create a inventory transfer transaction. So now once we come up here, we need to define the subsidiary. So I'm selecting as US. Then we need to specify from which location to location we need to transfer the inventory. So we have received the inventory at the quarantine location. So I'm selecting from location quarantine, and to location gonna be stock where we have keep our finished goods or sell. So I'm selecting as a stock location. After that, we need to select the item. So now I'm taking this same item here over the line level. We need to select the item. We have the description and whatever the quantity is available into the quarantine location. It is showing as a 20 quantities available in the quarantine location from which I want to transfer 10 quantities to the stock location after the QA process. Again, we need to here configure the inventory details from 20 quantity which I want to transfer to the stock location. So for that, I need to click on the add multiple. So you can have a whole list of serial number which is present into the quarantine location. So from here, I want to transfer this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 serial number items from quarantine to stock location. So I will select it. If you want to deselect, we just need to click on the cross button. So it will again going back here. If you want to add, we just need to click on this button. So 5 items I've added. Then we need to click on done button. Right? Sorry, we need to add 10 quantities. Let me add 5 more. 5, then 6, 7, 8. Right? And this 2 extra I'm receiving here. So these are the serial number 10 quantities I want to transfer. I've selected here. I will click on OK. We have the checkbox, green checkbox on the box. That means we have correctly configured the inventory. Then again, we need to click on add button and we need to save. So once we do that, the whole inventory, the 10 quantities gonna be transferred from quarantine location to stock location. You can also refer the inventories activities over the item record itself. So if I open this serialized inventory item, we go over the inventory details. So here you can have the list of the serial number and which location it is present. So you can see now, if I select here specific a quarantine location or a stock location, for example, so it will give you this 10 quantities is present, what we have just transferred from quarantine to stock location. These are the serial number which is ready to sell, right? So for this demo purpose, I've already created a sales order into NetSuite with the same item. So this is the serial number item. This is the customer we have added. We are here also, we can need to add all the mandatory field which is required. For example, the code number, Power Play client and all other fields. And on the line level, I want to sell from 10 quantity. I want to sell the 5 quantity. Right. So remove the another item. On this same item, what we have received from core into stock, that time I'm going to be sell from a sales order. Okay, I've added the rate and the amount. So once we do that, I'm click on save.
The serial numbers.
Yeah, we'll add on the item fulfillment. Okay, so we have approved sales order with the status pending fulfillment. So now fulfill the sales order, we need to click on the fulfill button. So if you want to put any memo, we can add up here. Okay, again, we need to check this box called fulfilled. Then we need to select a test location, that is a stock, where the 10 quantities are on hand. From that, 5 I want to send it back from the sales order. So here I have put the quantity 5. Then again, we need to configure the inventory. So again, I will click on add multiple. So here I have whole list of serial numbers which are present in stock location, from which I can select what serial number I want to sell to the customer. So I will select this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One done. I will click on OK. So now you can see the checkbox is checked. Here also in one of the requirement session, you have mentioned we want to have the feature to ship the sales order with the different locations of the customer, right? So once we come on the item fulfillment record, if we just go over the shipping sub tab, so here you can see we whatever the 2 addresses select added on the customer record for this specific customer, that will list up here. So this customer specifically have this address and this address. So any from which we want to select, we can select from here. So that's how you can ship to the multiple addresses from the same sales order for a same customer. Okay. So
Is the new or custom available for demonstration right now?
no, this is the same customer from the system I have used.
No,
The
but
system.
I was just asking when you selected the address list, new and custom were available in that list?
No. Here new means to say it will jump on a one of the form of the address where you can, if you want to quickly add the address, you can add it from here.
Yeah, that's a much more interesting demonstration to us than selecting an address.
Yeah. So if you want to quickly add, you can add here. If you just open the specific customer, so on the customer record, what where addresses we are saved, it will show up in the list.
Yeah, but can you just add a new one? I know
Yes.
that the drop down
Yes.
reflects what's on the customer record in NetSuite, but we'd really like to see you create a new one, because a lot of times the addresses for shipping are not on the customer's account already.
Okay. So let me just select a random zip address for now. I'm selecting for the Chicago. I'll put a label of test.
Choose default shipping.
It will always default the same address once we select this one. Want to address, for example, I'm just 11 QT Road. Okay. And if you want to put any attention, we can also attention we can put here. For example, I'm putting a SIA and we will save it.
Take off the default shipping, right? Because default shipping is going to lock them to that address, which is not what they want. They want to create addresses on the fly. So this is
yeah. So here, see whatever we have added here, it will come up here and it is changed to the customer.
Is so that particular address added to the list and then selectable for future orders?
No, it will not able to selectable for the future again. Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to selectable in the future, we need to add the addresses on the customer record.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So once we do that, let me just uncheck that default billing checkbox. So I think it's already removed. Yeah,
That's okay. We do it on the record. It's
Yep.
fine.
Yeah. So once we do that, we'll just save the record.
What if there's a shipping address for each of the quantities? So each of the 5 clocks go to a different address. How do you break it out to say one goes to this address, a second one goes to this other address?
Yeah, let me just show you that. So for example, what you just said, I will again deselect this quantity. For example, 3 I will send to the, sorry, you mentioned to be a one line for each address, right? From this 5, 3 you want to send a one
Sure,
address.
you could do two different shipments, right? 3 going to one address and 2 going to another. We just want to see how you can break it out and
for
ship
that
to different addresses.
For that you need to create a partial, like 2 item fulfillment we need to create. 1 item fulfillment record stick to the one address. For example, if you want to ship to the 2 different addresses, we need to create a 2 different item fulfillment, right? So for now, from here I will just create 1 item fulfillment with 1 address. So 3 quantities I want to fulfill, so I will just remove 2 quantity from the inventory configuration, inventory details, right? And I will click on save. Right, so it have this custom address what we have selected, and I have a quantity of 3, right? If we just go back to the sales order, it will show as a partially fulfilled, right? So from 5 quantity, 3 we have shipped. Now again, if you want to put ship to another address, I need to again click on the fulfill from sales order. We come here, I will go into the shipping tab. So now I'm just selecting a save address from the customer. And here I need to again configure the 2 quantity. I'm selecting this 14 and 15. On OK. We need to save it. So now we have 2 item fulfillment called 2225 and 2224 for the different addresses. So here is the custom address what we have added, and here is the standard address from the customer record. If you just go over this sales order on the related records, you can refer this both the item fulfillments. Okay, this is how you can handle the multiple addresses for the same sales order, and you want to send a different quantity to different addresses.
And real quick, Aniket, on the fulfillment, can we just show them the GL impact as well?
Yeah. Again, I will just click on this action and GL impact. Here is a GL impact, you can see. Okay.
And they're different accounts because we just didn't set it up correctly for the second one because it was on the fly.
Right. So these are everything over here is derived based on what is set up on the item. So once we go through setting up the items, we'll need the right account numbers to be associated so that it pulls through the transactions right from the procurement all the way to the sales. So at this stage, what we have done is now we've gone ahead and created a blanket purchase order. We have received against that blanket purchase order, that is created a child PO and received against it. We have then gone ahead and created a vendor bill. We have returned that item out of the system, right? Gone back to the vendor, done an RMA. Now we have also then done an inventory transfer for the received items in from, say, quarantine to stock so that we could sell. We have created the sales order. We have fulfilled the sales order via multi-shipping. So we've created 2 addresses to ship to in 2 item fulfillments. Now we'll create the invoice. From here, we'll generate the return, right? if a vendor returns it, or sorry, customer returns it, how would that come back into the system, right? From what I've understood it is whenever a customer returns it, typically it goes to get refurbished, and then from there it will go to your refurbished stock and be sold. So that is again the same inventory transfer that would happen, that it would go to, say, first you will receive it in quarantine. From quarantine, you will send it for your rework, which is again, whether you do that through a purchase order, it goes for rework, and then it'll come back into quarantine. From quarantine, you do a transfer to your refurbished. From there, you can then initiate sales orders again. So the biggest change, I think, for you is obviously the whole item piece of it, but how you're managing your inventory now in the system. What we have called out, again, at a very high level, is trying to show you at a parent location, which is test. We have created child locations, quarantine, refurbished, and stock, and you can manage it through that, right? You can do the transfers through that. We've kept it very simple. You have to think about whether this process, what we have showed you, is going to work for you, or is there something else that we need to, discuss later, where that inventory management piece is not going to work, right? This is again trying to stick to out of the box functionality. So whatever we are doing right now, we're trying to not go down the customization route. So Aniket, let's go ahead and just do the return from here, please.
So now, for example, now here our tracking report gonna be help to you. For example, this is the customer. Okay, sorry.
Before we get to the return, just a real quick question on the invoice.
Mhm.
The invoice presentment is going to be the billing and shipping address from the customer record, right? It's not going to reflect the shipping addresses of where those clocks were shipped.
It will take a default billing addresses from the customer record, whatever we have selected a checkbox.
So if we use a custom address like was just demonstrated,
Mhm.
that address that we actually ship to would show up on the customer invoice, right?
Then
No,
we
they're
need to-
saying no, it won't. It will not.
Yeah, it
That
will take
that
from
seems
this,
untenable.
yeah,
That doesn't
from
seem
this
usable.
address, because we have selected as a default billing address this one. That's why it is shown up on the invoice.
The entire sub account. So it's taking the address from the sub account. It will not take it from the shipping address.
We will need, like we said, this is not completely configured as yet. We'll need to go back and see what needs to be done if that is your requirement. If you want just the ad hoc address to show up at an invoice level, we'll need to have a look at that, right? Because what we said from the invoicing stage currently, I don't know how you're doing it currently, because the invoice, if that is generated in NetSuite and you're sending it out, you were using expenses. So were you manually entering the addresses? How were you doing that currently?
Yes,
How was
we're
that
adding those shipping addresses manually
Manually,
and
okay.
rebooking the clocks in order for them to bill against that shipped address. Now, let's put a pin in that because we're going to revisit that decision. I just was curious what the standard functionality had. So it's defaulting from the customer record.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, sorry, go ahead.
If you're doing it manually and you have been doing it manually, that feature is not going to be taken away. You'll be still able to do that. We'll try to see.
Do this.
Yeah, I know,
we don't want to do that. It's a lot of extra work.
I understand. that is where we go down the rabbit hole of customizations, right? So we'll make a note of that to see what we can do to help you in any shape or form, or whether that has to be a complete automation, and we'll bring that up with Jill.
It could also be a business decision to change our current process, but we'll pursue that. It was just a question. I do have one more question though before you do the return. So no sales order can be created if I don't have enough quantity in stock. Is that a true statement?
You
sales
can create.
Go ahead, Pranika.
Yeah, so you can create a sales order. There's no restriction on that, but it will be sales order going to be created with the back order quantity until and unless you have the quantity in the stock location. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you still could proceed even if there was not enough inventory in stock.
No, you can create, but it will be on a back order quantity.
Yep, that's fine.
Or if Sue's order management group doesn't know particularly what warehouse it's going to be delivered from.
They will never know, right?
Correct.
The sales team doesn't know where it's going to be fulfilled from. So they have the ability to always create the sales orders. It's at item fulfillment where that is decided where it will be fulfilled from, etc., quantity available, and so on. But the system will not limit the sales team from creating orders, because they don't have quantities or there's no stock available. The order will still get created. It'll just tell you that it's back ordered. All right. So moving into the return. Yeah, let's go through the return process.
Yeah. For example, now from this specific invoice, what we have shipped to the specific customer, from that, this SR 1001111, I want to send it back to the vendor for the rework, right? So I want to track from which purchase order basically we have received that specific CL number. So for that, we need to just put here a CL number. And we'll have the whole track of the history from where it was created, what are the purchase order, what are the sales orders, what is the invoice, item fulfillment, and item receipt, right? So currently I have sent this back item to the customer. That's what is showing a 0 quantity available in our NetSuite inventory. So I have the reference now. This is created from this specific purchase order. So I will open this record.
Correct me. Are we looking at a return from a customer to Dayforce or a return from Dayforce to a supplier?
Sorry, let me take my word back. Initially, we are receiving the inventory back from the customer. So for that, we need to come on the invoice part and we need to click on the authorized return. So once you click on that, we'll jump to the authorized return called the RMA transaction form. So here also we have all the data from the invoiced and sales order to the RMA record. And here we are receiving again back this inventory, not to the stock, but to the quarantine location. Okay. And we need to, on the line level, we need to specify from 5 quantity how much you want to send it back for the rework to the vendor. So for now, I'm putting a quantity as 2. Now we click on OK and we'll save the RMA. Yeah, so RMA is created here. Now I want to receive this inventory back to the Dayforce location. So I will click on the receive button from the RMA and it will create a form called the item receipt where I can put any memo if required. And then on the line level, we need to check this box again and we need to again configure the inventory from the list, which inventory I want to return it back, right? So here you will have in this search whole serial number data. For example, if I just put this sales order number,
Just a quick time check. Is it okay if we can extend for this? Any of the user group has any hard stop at this moment?
I can stay on for a few moments. Do we want to kind of get to a good stopping place?
I think we'll just do the return and I think we are good then after. So another, say, 5 minutes and we should be done.
Okay. And then what I think we should do is keep that other meeting on the calendar and then to kind of have everyone kind of think through this and possibly bring questions back. Or we can talk through that after kind of what our next steps are, maybe. We'll keep that other meeting on the calendar, but maybe we can internally figure out what our next steps are.
Sounds good, Jim.
Okay.
So just let me just go through that. So here, once I put this from which we have created the RMA. So you will, once you put a document number here in the search, you will have the whole list of item receipts that is sent back to the customer, right? So from this list of a serial number, I just want to return back this first serial number. So that I need to put on my RMA, sorry, on my RMA item receipt. Okay, here it is. So once I click on the configure button, I need to manually enter here the serial number that I want to return, receive back into Dayforce inventory location. And second one is 2. Okay. So click on OK. We need to save this item receipt. So once we do that, from here, we can either create a credit memo if required, or we can directly refund to the customer back. So now if you just see the specific serial number, so it is again coming back to the quarantine location, right? Here you can see. Now from this specific quarantine location, I want to send it back to the vendor for the rework. So by putting the serial number here itself, you can have a whole list of transaction details where we can just need to select, we need to open the specific PO from which I want to send this inventory back to the vendor for the rework, right? So once we open the purchase order, we need to again click on the authorize return. And again, it can be a $0 VRMA.
Yeah. So to follow the same process, basically, right?
Yeah.
What we just showed you, and it will go out of inventory. It will come back into refurbished now as your refurbished item, and that is, I think, how we have configured it for your initial demo, so to speak, right? Now, again, the thing is, this is recorded. I would suggest going through it again just to make sure you get an understanding of what this looked like. Any automations and so on, we will have to obviously look at to see what can be done. But at the very high level, this allows you to decide whether you want to use blanket purchase orders or regular purchase orders. First, that's the first deciding step for you. And however, whichever route you go, you've seen you're able to follow the process of receiving into inventory, receiving into stock or refurbish, so to speak, and then fulfilling in from those locations. So also need to understand whether you want to or you would like to use the inventory how we have tried to set it up for you, or is there something else that you have in mind? So basically to think about how that would work for you. But given that, let's open the forum for any other questions that they may have.
That return we just looked at. So I understand that was a return from a customer to Dayforce.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, depending on contractual requirements, it might be a credit to the customer, maybe not if it's not required by our contract with the customer.
Right.
But that's not a return from Dayforce to the manufacturer.
That was your vendor return.
This is the process we need to follow. So we need to just, yeah.
So that,
well, I mean, a return from a customer to Dayforce is a 100% different thing than a return from Dayforce to the vendor.
Right. So what we just showed you is the return from the customer. Right? Yeah, return from the customer to Dayforce went to quarantine. That is what we just created. From here, you will create a purchase order, and you will take your return that you receive from the customer and send it to your refurbish vendor, whoever refurbishes it, so that he can refurbish it and it comes into your refurbished stock, right? So essentially the same thing, but the process is the same. It's just that when you return from the customer, it will come into your inventory, your quarantine inventory. From there, you will then decide whether you want to send it out for refurbished or not.
Okay. And when I send it, say I'm sending it back to the vendor to be refurbished.
Yeah.
That's not a return to vendor. We're not saying, we're returning this purchase to the vendor.
Right.
So
it's a new purchase.
Dayforce maintains ownership of that particular product. It's in our inventory. It's not returned to the vendor. It's just financially, we're not, getting a refund for the vendor for that product. We're just paying them again to refurbish it.
Right.
So first, I guess
that's a
that
new purchase order.
transaction, moving that back to the vendor, would be unrelated to the original purchase order when we purchased it from the vendor. So we don't
No,
need
that's
any
what I'm saying,
relationship.
Carl. That's what I'm saying, Carl, that is a new purchase order. So again, when you create a sales order, you fulfill that sales order. You have now sent the item to the customer. The customer wants to return it. You create a customer return. You receive that into inventory, your quarantine inventory. That transaction is now closed. Now you want to send that same item to your vendor to get it refurbished. That is a new purchase order that you will create. You will select that item and you say, this is what I want you to say refurbish. And it will refurbish and then it will come back into your inventory, just like what we did when you did a purchase order. You go to quarantine and you transfer to refurbish.
Okay, and so we have, not one, but 300 clocks sitting there in quarantine, and we ship them all to the manufacturer to be refurbished.
Yes.
And we have a blanket services purchase order with the vendor for refurbishing clocks, the service of refurbishing the clocks. So we just send them off to the vendor with a notation of that particular blanket purchase order that already exists.
If that is the case, yes, you can do that. Or now the question again, whenever you talk about blanket purchase orders, you need to just come back to the understanding of, are you really going to use blanket purchase orders, or do you want to use purchase orders because it comes from Coupa? So again, something to think about, but yes, you have that ability. If you're doing blanket purchase orders for refurbished, you'll be able to create that just like what we saw.
Okay. Just the term RMA has so many different meanings in so many different contexts that keeping it clear is.
There is VRMA, that is vendor return, and then there is regular.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Deepinder, I think we've gone over, we're starting to lose people and they're going to have to go to other meetings. How about we do this? I know that we have a call today. I also have a call with a couple other people, and we can kind of discuss what our next steps are. But I would encourage the group on the call today, if you feel like you want to go back and look at the recording, please do so. But if there are other questions or other examples or other things that you'd like to see, if you could shoot those either my way, Brian, Nicole, we will gather a list together and get that back to Deepinder and team to ensure that you do see or get an answer to any open questions that you have. We will leave the meeting on the calendar. I believe it was on Wednesday or Thursday. Just in case that we do need to meet Thursday. Okay. For those particular items, and then we will go from there. But Deepinder, thank you for taking the time to show us what you did today, and we will together again soon, and we'll get you an update on next steps. Thanks, everybody.
Sounds
great. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.